think that that's definitely something that's very necessary, especially in the time that we're in. A lot of people are teaching people how to be successful financially. But the most important thing is, are you successful within you? Are you successful within your mind? And we know that, especially after COVID happened, a lot of the suicide rate actually went up. And so that just shows you, that your mental space is very important, but there's not a lot of people that are teaching us the skills that we need in order for us to tap into those different realms, into those different categories, because there's not enough people that's actually focusing on that. I'm a big person that thinks that, in our society, we are more focused on either entertainment or getting the money, and we're not necessarily focused on us and how we feel and what we think. And so once we start viewing it from the aspect of, no, I need to figure out how I can bridge the gap between my mental, my physical, and my emotional, now I can actually be successful in any category of my life. I don't have to worry about the burn. Yeah, the burnout is going to come from certain things because you are almost, if you're a one-man band, that's where the burnout comes in at. But the burnout also comes in when you have so many things in your life that you have to take care of. Like I'm a firm person that'll say, if you look at it from the aspect of, if all of us have a cell phone and we charge our cell phone up every single night, but when was the last time did you charge yourself up? That's why I teach people affirmations, because the affirmations is going to teach you how to recharge you, how to actually tap into yourself and give you that power source and give you that energy that you are going to need. And if you don't know how to do that, guess what? You are going to burn out. You are going to tap out. And if you are, and I know there's affirmation coaches out there, but there's nobody teaching affirmation the way that I teach it, right? Because I studied neurology and I studied the human body, right? And so when I understand that the way the brain functions, and even tonality, how we speak to ourselves. And it's not just how we are speaking to ourselves. Our body is made up of 70 to 80% water. How we are speaking to our water, because now our water retains frequency and it actually a move. So if you ever saw one of those metal bowls and they pour water in it and then they make the vibration, the water will actually start jumping. Well, we are like that bowl, and we're the water, and we can make ourselves jump from how we actually talk to our water and change the frequency of how we are moving in our own energy. And so once we start using those affirmations, we now can actually change how we feel. That's what people don't understand. Everything is created twice, right? And Stephen Covey talked about this, right? It's created once in your mind, but then it's created in the physical. But I take it a step further. It's not just physical. You can actually create how you want to feel. So I more so focus on people that are dealing with depression and anxiety and stress. And I teach them visualization on how they can actually make themselves feel the disposition that they want to feel. And the reason why we find ourselves in a space where we can't overcome and get out of that dark place is because we have not been shown that there's actually a way out of there. So I'm going to give that person the flashlight so they can actually see and focus on certain things in that dark place. So now they'll actually know how to get out of that dark place. And so once we actually start doing it, it makes it better for us to actually say, well, you know what? I saw the person that I want to be, but not just who I want to be. I see the person how I want to feel. So one of my techniques, and I'll share it with you and everybody that's watching this right now, I'll share it with you, right? So we'll actually go through the technique. And so one of the techniques is my 777 method. And so what that method is you're going to say 7 affirmations for the next 7 days, 7 times a day. Well, what that's doing is you are resetting and reprogramming your mind. But after you reset it, now you can now download some new information, because resetting it is not enough. You got to now download the new information. And that's when you start saying, I want to How do you want to feel? I want to feel amazing. I want to feel phenomenal. I want to feel great. So what is your essence word? So you may say my essence word is great. So whenever I
Mhm.
interact with people in the world and they say, hey, how are you doing? I say I'm great. Well, the reason that I say I'm great is not necessarily saying that my circumstances are great. I'm saying that I am great internally. So when I speak to you, I'm actually speaking to myself. So you're just a reflection of me talking to myself. And so once we start using the affirmations that way, now we continue to empower ourselves. And it's like we start feeling the goosebumps in our arms. I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I didn't know that I could feel this way. And it gives us that ability. And so once we start learning those different techniques, it really helps change our emotional state and our feelings, because we know that our feelings can really dictate what we do physically. Because if you're not feeling it emotionally, you unknowingly are going to treat how you move in life how you truly feel inside. And so even though you may be telling people that you're okay, but you feel in a certain way, it's going to be expressed. So people
Right.
may go to work and they just like, man, I don't feel like being here, and I'm going through this at home. Guess what? You're going to be inefficient. And so the reason that I teach affirmations the way that I teach it is because I'm showing people how to be efficient and effective in their life, even when they're not feeling it, because they can force themselves to feel how they want to feel. So I'm definitely on board for that mindset uh thing you're talking about. I'm definitely on board for that.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. And that's very much true. And what we have to understand is, when I deal with depression and anxiety and things like that. That's why I actually decided to funnel and, helping people in that realm, because your body is telling you, I don't want to do this anymore. And so you have to do something in order to now tell your body what you're going to do, because you
Mhm.
don't want to do.
Right.
So when you find something that is going to help you get out of that feeling, because it becomes a perpetuating thing where you constantly are like, no, I don't want to do this. But then we spoke about this earlier when I said you fall back on what you know. So what if what you know is low self-esteem and depression? Well, guess what? When you are feeling happy, well, falling back on what you know is your body is going to start saying, no, we used to actually feeling down. We're not used to feeling upbeat. I don't
Mm.
like feeling upbeat. So I need to fall back on what I know. And that's why when we suffer from things like this, we like listening to music that is going to put us in that space of what we have fallen back into knowing. So we
Mhm.
have to recreate what it is that we want to fall into, what it is that we want to know. And so once we create that space for ourselves, and then that becomes normal for us to actually receive that, it makes it possible for us to continue to even accept somebody that's trying to do it. Because if you cannot give it to yourself, guess what? Nobody else can give it to you, because you automatically reject it from within. So when a person tries to give you something that you do not give yourself, you mentally and emotionally just reject it and say, I don't believe that. Somebody can say, hey, you're beautiful. But if you don't look in the mirror and think you're beautiful, you're going to be like, they capping. Thank you. Okay, I hear you. So once we train our minds to actually believing how we want to feel, and now navigating through that, and this is why I actually say my method is called 777, is because you need to do this constantly. And we talked about discipline earlier. That
Mhm.
creates a level of discipline, and it creates a routine. And I mean, I can't give my other little tips and secrets that I teach my coaching clients, right? But
Right.
there's some secrets and tips that's actually going to bridge the gap. And I have a book that's actually that talks about it, and that's in there and things like that. So it's just like we gotta use this in a way of saying this is almost like anybody that plays spades is almost like, no, these my spades in the deck. I got the spades in the deck now, and now
Mhm.
I know I got the high cards that I could pull out. that's going to trump everything. So you want to be able to deposit certain things into yourself. That way, when something do happen, just like car insurance, you get car insurance because just in case something happens. Well, you need to start depositing certain affirmations and stuff into yourself. So just in case something happens, you may be good right now. But what if you have someone that you know and love, they die? Well, guess what? That can make you go into depression because now you can no longer see this person. But that's a part of life right now. So we got to say, what am I going to do for myself that's going to prepare me to remember and fall back on what I know and not what I don't know. Because when we were children, we did fire drills and we constantly did a fire drill, even though it wasn't no fire. But when a fire did happen, boom, we knew exactly what to do because we fell back on what we were doing before it actually was a fire. And so that's why we have to look at it from the aspect of I need to do these things in preparation that is going to help me for in case something does happen.
And it's not easy.
And I like how you expounded on that, and I don't even think that we notice that just the different things that are actually happen within our bodies. And so once we see that we're more in control of us than we think, if we choose to figure out how to be more in control of us. Because our brains will tell us to do one thing, but our bodies will tell us to do something totally different. So that's just why, a lot of times we misread certain things within ourselves. So if we look at it from a health standpoint, a lot of times people confuse hunger with being thirsty because it seems to be the same. But a lot of times you're not hungry. You're dehydrated. And so if you start thinking, oh, no, those are hunger pains. No, those are thirst pains, and your body don't say the difference, but it's the same, just like with the tears. Oh, you crying because you're sad, but then you crying because you're happy. Well, it's tears. It looks the same, but the compound of it is actually different. So when we look at it from that standpoint, it goes on a lot deeper level and it's not as surface as people think. Like people think that affirmation and mindset is all surface stuff because it's not something that you can tangibly touch. But those things are very, very much deeper because the things that you could tangibly touch, that's actually surface. And the thing that you cannot touch is what's more deeper and it's just as equally important as the tangible things that you can touch. So I ain't going to say it's more important or less. I'm going to say they're just as equally important.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when we see it from the standpoint of it's not just necessarily the physical, right? Because as you said, people buy courses. You buying courses on how to start a business and how to do this and how to get credit and stuff like that, which is all great, phenomenal things. But there's an aspect that is missing, which is you. You got to actually figure you out, because I believe that once you can understand you, then guess what? Everything outside of you is easy to understand. If you know how to discipline you, then guess what? You'll be able to know how to discipline other things. If you know how to deal with chaos within yourself, you'll know how to deal with chaos on the outside. And so once we start managing us properly, then it's easier for us to manage other things properly. So it's just so many different aspects and so many different realms that we actually tap into and that we learn. And that's why I say it's all about categorization of every single thing in your life. Because you may say, for example, be very punctual, and you may feel like you love yourself and you think that you're beautiful, but guess what? You may not be a great communicator of expressing your feelings. And this is something that most men deal with, right? And I can only say this because I'm a man. Most men deal with, I'll tell you what I'm thinking, but that doesn't mean I'll tell you how I feel. Those are two totally different things. And so when we look at it from that standpoint, we got to say, all right, well, what affirmations am I going to say that's going to help me to become a better communicator of my feelings? And believing in myself. And I don't dig into nobody's past because I'm not a therapist. I dig into where you are right here and then how we can move forward as a GPS system. Because guess what? The GPS that you cut on, you put it on even if you know where you're going. Why? Because the GPS is going to tell you what you can't see. You don't know that there's a car accident 5 blocks down because you can't see that. But the GPS can see that. And that's what coaching is going to do. The coaching is going to say, okay, it's certain things that you might not be seeing that I'm going to help you to be able to see. And these affirmations right here, they may be able to help you to get around the detour so you can still get to your destination, because your destination is your destination. And I believe that the stuff that we work on now, and you keep talking about the future, right? Our future selves is going to appreciate what the work that we do right now. So everything that you are trying to become later, well, if you become it now and you work on becoming it now, you are the future you.
Yep.
You're that person already. And that's why I do visualization. And I'm sure that's why you do that with your clients too, because
Yep.
if you can see that person, if you can see those feelings, then guess what? You'll be able to start saying, all right, let me do this. I'm that person right now. And when you're that person 100%, your body will be able to accept that person, and it won't be something foreign because you already saw it. So when you become that, your body won't be like, no, that's not me. That's not who I am. No, you'll be able to accept that person for who they are because you already seen that person. It's just like watching a movie. When we see a movie and then something happens and you're like, you know what? I saw this happening in this movie before. And then it happened. You're like, okay, I knew that was going to happen. So it's the same thing with ourselves. When we see certain feelings that we want to have and we create it in our mind, when it does happen, we'll say, I saw this feeling before. I remember that it was going to make me feel happy when I made myself feel this. So now I can accept this from myself. And anybody that tries to come and deposit something into me, I'll be able to accept that deposit versus rejecting that deposit, because everything, I just look at it like favorable and unfavorable. I don't really like to say the words good or bad because you're not in control of good or bad. So if you say favorable and unfavorable, well, I'm more in control of it, because even if it's unfavorable, I can say, well, what do I want to take from this to make me use this to make me better? So I might have been in an unfavorable situation, but I can know how to say, well, I'm going to actually shift this information on how I download it into myself, and it's going to make me be more aware. It's going to make me be more cautious. It's going to make me be more vigilant. And so now it's something that I call deer fear, right? And not deer DEAR, but deer DEER, right? And so we won't freeze. So when we don't freeze, we can now proceed with caution. And so those are some of the things that we actually, we notice and we make mention to, and it's very helpful to. I'm the same name on all social platforms. So Mr. Mindful Minute, that's MR Mindful Minute, all one word. Facebook, Instagram. You could Google me. Right? You could Google Mr. Mindful Minute. You could Google Go Be Great LLC. That'll come up. All of my information will come up. I have a podcast called the Mr. Mindful Minute Podcast, where I touch on different things every single week, from mental, physical, business. I interview different people on there. And people could just click the link in my bio to get a free 15-minute affirmation mindset session, where we're going to come up with some affirmations for them and whatever category that they would like to get those affirmations in. And if I'm a good fit for them, I can work with them. I help people to overcome whatever is holding them back from being efficient in their life. Within 12 weeks, you're going to be able to overcome. How people can get in contact with me.